I want to get through this video without making any biblical references, because honestly, when you think about where the Vancouver Canucks are at, and you think about the guys up top, the guys who are making these decisions and signing these deals, the transformation from, let's say, 5 years ago to now, it is absolutely miraculous. And hence, I don't want to, offend anybody by using hyperbolic biblical statements to make our points here, because the transformation is so amazing. It is nothing short of a miracle here. So what I wanted to do was head over to The Athletic, because earlier today there was a post made by Dom Lucician, NHL Contract Efficiency Rankings 2024, which teams spent their money most wisely. Now, as self-explanatory as an article like this can be, it talks about the NHL teams, and it talks about which ones have spent their money the best. The article and the list, they're all calculated based off of some of the Athletics models. They talk about which players are worth certain amounts of money and whether or not those players are living up to the real amount of money that they're making, or if they supersede that value, if their performance is less worthy of the money that they're receiving. It's a nice little compilation of which contracts are good and which teams have the best good contracts. And if you go over to the Vancouver Canucks, last year on this list, they were 18th. So in the bottom half of the league, there's no doubt that some of the bad contracts that they had, like Tyler Myers at 6x6, for example, and some of the other dollar amounts were bringing the Canucks ranking down. But if you take a look at what they have this year, this was posted onto Twitter by G-Man. Regular articles going to be linked in the description. The screenshots and everything are all from Twitter here. G-Man posted how the Vancouver Canucks went from 18th last year to 5th overall this year. Keep cooking Allvin'S is the hashtag. And you can see included in this Twitter post is the Vancouver Canucks chart, which includes the number 5 ranking, as well as a total letter grade of A-. Take a look at this. We'll break it down by different positions here. Vancouver's annual surplus is $21.9 million in value, and the total surplus is $40.3 million in value. How exactly this entire thing works, the annual surplus number is essentially the difference between the model value that the players are at and the actual contract AAV amounts that they're at. The total surplus is the amount of annual surplus multiplied out by the number of years that the contract goes for. So, for example, Jake DeBrusk is modeled by the Athletics model as a $7.1 million AAV player. His actual contract is 5.5. So the surplus, the amount of extra value the Canucks are getting per year out of a guy like Jake DeBrusk, is 1.6 million. Multiplied out by 7 years, they're getting a total surplus of $10.9 million worth of value out of DeBrusk. It's a crazy chart. Honestly, it's a little difficult to explain, but I think it did a pretty good job. It's just, once you get it, it's like, oh, okay, so like the Canucks are getting $1.6 million worth of value out of DeBrusk. For example, Nils Höglander and his 20-plus even-strength goals from last season, his model value is $5.3 million AAV. The Canucks are only having him on for $1.1 million per year for 1 year, so they're making $4.2 million worth of value on Höglander. If you look at the Canucks forward core just in general and you go by annual surplus, so year-by-year value, the Canucks only really have one negative player. Nils Åman is the only guy in the red, and he's only in the red by such a small amount of money. The rest of these guys, Connor Garland is providing $1.1 million more value than what he actually is signed for. Danton Heinen is $1.2 million cheaper on the Canucks payroll compared to what the Athletic model has him at. Pius Suter, $1.7 million cheaper. Daniel Sprong, $2 million cheaper. He was a $2.9 million player projected by the Athletic. JT Miller even. He's a $9 million player in the Athletics model, but his actual AAV is $8 million. EP40, for as bad as he was in the playoffs, he is still making $0.8 million in value per season for the Canucks. Nils Höglander is the biggest one up here on forward because $1.1 million as an actual contract is really good, and the contract grade is a B+. Jake DeBrusk is the best contract according to the Athletics model because the total surplus of $10.9 million is quite significant. his ranking is an A-. Then you go over to defensemen, you can see that Quinn Hughes is the only A+ here. He has a $7.9 million AAV contract over 3 years, but the model evaluates him at $14.7 million. We had already talked about that in a prior video. So the annual surplus, year by year, the Canucks are getting $6.9 million worth of value out of Quinn Hughes for a total surplus of 3 years. So $20.6 million is the total that they're getting out of this player. It's an A+ contract for a reason. It's really good. All the other defensemen, you can say that nobody is really like significantly underpaid. Everybody's kind of in the reasonable territory of what they should be worth. Filip Hronek, for example, $7.3 million projected model value, $7.3 actual contract value. So there isn't really too much going on there year by year. Then you go over to the goaltenders, and you can see that Thatcher Demko is valued as an $8.2 million goalie. He's making $5 million, so there is surplus there. He's got a B+ level contract, and then Artur Silovs is making $0.9 million a year. His model value is 1.3, so even the backup goalie is providing surplus for the Vancouver Canucks. Surplus, by the way, if you didn't already figure it out, surplus is just like extra. Surplus is an extra amount of stuff compared to what you need. So if you have surplus, like if you're a business, having surplus materials is kind of a bad thing because you need to unload that somehow, or you overspent in acquiring your materials in the first place. But if you're a hockey team and you're trying to maximize the amount of dollars that your players are able to give you, then okay, having surplus value for your hockey team is a fantastic thing. Quinn Hughes is a $14 million defenseman according to the Athletics model, and he's only making 7.9, so the surplus value that they're getting out of him is 6.9 million. It's a crazy amount, and the Vancouver Canucks have put themselves in such a good position that now they are the 5th best team in the NHL when it comes to dollar efficiency. Like, just the jump from 18 to 5, and even 18 is, like, generous from what they had in prior years. The dog days of the Jim Benning era, where OEL was making so much money, where Eric Goodbranson was making so much money, where Tyler Myers was making so much money, Louis Eriksson, Antoine Roussel, Jay Beagle, like, in those days, the Canucks were lucky to get into the top 20. Now, they're top 5. Like, if you go back to those days, okay, it's 2019. Tell Lego Rocks in 2019, yeah, Jim Benning is not doing a good job, by the way, and in a few years he's going to make a trade that's really going to hamper the team and its flexibility over the next few years. Cough, cough, the OEL, Eriksson, Garland, Roussel trade. But what if I told you in 2019 that by the time 2024 rolls around, the Vancouver Canucks would have had a Norris Trophy winner, in the same year they have a Jack Adams winner, in the same year they have a Lady Byng nominee, and a Vezina nominee, and they take the Stanley Cup finalists to 7 games, they lose in 7, and they also have the 5th best financials in the league! Oh, they're so good, man! It's so good! Patrik Allvin, bro! I don't even know if it's, like, fair to say if it's just Patrik Allvin, but, like, the entire staff here. Emily Castonguay managing the contracts. Jim Rutherford overseeing everything, using his multiple times Stanley Cup winning expertise to guide his protege in Allvin, the guy who was his right-hand man in Pittsburgh all those years. With their own coaching staff and Rick Tocchet, they got Sergei Gonchar over here, and their own guys. Teddy Bluger, formerly Ian Cole, not there anymore. Mark Friedman, they try to get Gensel, he's not there anymore. Formerly Casey DeSmith, not there anymore. Daniel Sprong, like, this is just Pittsburgh all over again, you know? Like, the Sidney Crosby contract was a really good contract for decades. It was really good. So now the Vancouver Canucks are really making things work here. And I don't know how to feel about that because they are so much better than what we have seen out of them the past few years. It almost doesn't even feel real. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the Vancouver Canucks and their contract situation, how it's the 5th best in the NHL, according to Dom Lucian and The Athletic and their fancy stat models and everything. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.